Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Madhitamastu Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Puranam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Namo Brahmadibhya Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhya Vamsharshibhya Mahadbhya Namo Gurubhya. Yadvai tanna vijanati, vijananvai tanna vijanati. That Atma does not know anything there in the deep sleep state. In the deep sleep state, the self does not know anything because there is darkness of ignorance. Vijananvai tanna vijanati. While knowing, he does not know. While knowing, that is this Sarvabhuta Chaitanyam, because his consciousness by nature, and therefore illumines even the deep sleep state, the ignorance also is illuminated. Therefore, if knowing means illuminating, the self knows even in the deep sleep state, that is called Samanya Jnanam. The general knowledge is there, Tanna Vijanati, but particular Jnanam, Vishesha Jnanam, that these are different objects that he doesn't have in the deep sleep state. He knows because to know is the nature of the self, but he does not know the object because they are all merged in the darkness of ignorance. In the deep sleep state, everything is merged in the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, there is no Vishesha Jnanam, there is no knowledge of the particular names and forms, but then there is jnanam in as much as the self is of the nature of consciousness or knowledge, so he knows. In the sense that he knows means he limits whatever there is. And so Swarupa Jnanam, the knowledge of the nature of the self is there. Vishesha Jnanam, knowledge of the different names and forms is not there. So he knows Vijananvai Tanna vijanati, he does not know while knowing. He does not know, the Vishesha Jnanam is not there while knowing, because Samanya Jnanam, the Swarupa Jnanam is there. How do you say that he knows? If he knew in deep sleep state, then he will be conscious. Well, he knows, because to know is his nature. Nahi vijñātuhu vijñātehe vipelopo vidyate. The knowing of the knower does not suffer a cessation, because knowing of consciousness is the nature, and therefore that is, whether it is waking, dream, deep sleep, whatever state is, the Swarupa of the nature never disappears. Fire is hot in all conditions also. Atma is aware in all conditions, waking, dream, deep sleep. Therefore, his nature of consciousness never suffers a cessation, never ceases to be conscious. Avinashitvat, because the nature that he is conscious is avinashi, is imperishable. That the fire is hot, the heat of fire never suffers a cessation. The brightness of sun, never, as long as sun is there, brightness is there, because sun does not want to make an effort to be bright. Therefore, the fire does not need to make an effort to be hot. So Atma does not need an effort to be conscious, because that is his nature. Then you say that he knows. He knows in as much as he is conscious by nature, and still you say do not know. So how come then he does not know anything deep sleep state? Natu tad dvitiyamasti tata anyad vibhaktam yad vijaniyat. In deep sleep state, that second thing is not there other than him. Like in the waking state, I know because you are there, apart from me, and I am apart from you. Drishya and Drashta, the object and subject duality is there. So that is when what we call the knowledge, a perceptual knowledge takes place. This kind of duality is not there in a deep sleep state, because it's all merged into ignorance. Therefore, the conditions required for Vishesha Jnanam or particular knowledge of the separation of the knower and the known is not there in deep sleep. Therefore, that kind of knowledge which arises from the separation of knower and known is not there. There is Vishesha Jnanam. In as much as consciousness, the nature of the self, therefore, he knows, he is aware. Understand what the Upanishad means by he knows, meaning that he is consciousness. He limits. Does not know because there is nothing else to know. Everything else has merged into darkness of ignorance. Therefore, there is nothing else for him to know. In short, the deep sleep state, there is an experience of non-duality. That the subject-object duality is not there. Here, when the subject-object duality is there, the subject feels limited by the object, because the subject is not the object is not the subject. Therefore, the objects makes me feel confined to being the subject. So when the subject-object duality is there, I feel confined that I am just the subject. I am just a drashta, not drishyam. Yes, I am limited. In the deep sleep state, that distinction disappears. The drashta also is not there, because that is also merged into ignorance. Drishyam also is not there, it is also merged into ignorance. Therefore, the duality of drashta, drishya, or subject-object is not there. That separation is not there. That duality is not there. Therefore, he does not have the knowledge that is required, particular knowledge required for the subject-object. So you know the name and form, provided there is subject-object duality. But otherwise, he knows. He knows because to know is his nature, but he does not know because what is required for the particular knowledge to take place is not there. His sense organs, mind, objects is all merged into darkness of ignorance, and therefore he doesn't have any particular knowledge. Swamiji, why do they keep on bothering our deep sleep state? So talking about moksha, why is this Upanishad? All the entire deep sleep state. It is not talking about just deep sleep state, it is talking about moksha. Because deep sleep is the closest example that we have for moksha or liberation or freedom. And therefore, what happens by way of nature in deep sleep state is what we need to do consciously in the waking state. There by Ishvara's scheme, maybe there is an experience of non-duality. But because of ignorance, there is not knowledge of non-duality in deep sleep. So we should also create that situation where I become free from the identification of gross body, subtle body, and then also free from ignorance. This is what I have to do willfully in the waking state. So deep sleep state is an example of moksha, of what we need to do in order to become free. Then it happens by nature that we become free from identification. Here we must make an effort to become free from identification of the body, mind, sense organs, and identify with our true nature. That is by Atma, Anatma Viveka, recognizing that body is an Atma, sense organs are an Atma, mind is an Atma, intellect is an Atma, and I am, the self is different from them, untouched by them, unaffected by them. I am, but I need an experience in absence of all those all that anatma. Then when Atma is there, then also that is no problem. Because anatma does not really make the Atma limited. It's my notion that this body makes me limited. It doesn't. Body doesn't make me limited. Mind doesn't make me limited. When the Swami is, but I identify the body and create a limitation for me. I identify the mind as though create a limitation for me. The deep sleep, I am not there to play that mischief, and therefore there is no identification. But in the waking state, I should willfully become free from that identification. And for that, the example of deep sleep is given for us to understand how it is. It approximates moksha or the situation of liberation. Approximates, it's not exactly. Now we go to passage 22. Where are we? 32. What did I say? All right, okay. 32. The Upanishad now concludes. So it began by giving us the example of a close embrace of a man and woman, and then how there is non-dual experience of non-duality, and that is a deep sleep state. So all that was elaborated, and now that conclusion is concluded. That discussion is concluded here in the passage 32. So 32 is done? How? Okay, let us read it. Salilaha eko drashta advaito bhavati esha brahmalokaha samrat itiha enam anushashasa yajnavalkyaha. We need up to this, I think. Salila, water, transparent, non-dual. So Salila, water is an example for Brahman. Because water is transparent and water is pure, and therefore it serves as a good example that Brahman is also pure, transparent. Ekaha, one, non-dual, drashta, the seer, the illuminator. Advaita bhavati, he becomes non-dual. Isha Brahmaloka Samradeti, he Samrad, this is Brahmaloka. Brahma itself is Loka or the realm. So Brahma, Loka also, Lok means to shine or to look. So Brahmaloka, the effulgent world of Brahman. So far, King Janaka kept on asking, say Yajnavalkya, Ata urdvam vimokshayava bruhi. Yajnavalkya kept on giving upadesha, and Janaka would say, Ata urdvam vimokshayava bruhi. Hey Yajnavalkya, further tell me about moksha. Yajnavalkya said, further tell me about moksha. Further tell me about moksha. In short, King Janaka kept on extracting, this knowledge from sage Yajnavalkya. Because in the guise of one question, he had the boon of asking one question, and supposedly all of this is only part of that one question. And so in the name of that one boon or one question, he keeps on extracting more and more from Yajnavalkya. Therefore, Eshaha Brahmaloka Samrat, hey Samrat, hey Emperor, this is Brahmaloka. Then further says, Katham punah kathamidi. How? How is it Brahmaloka? Then Ishasya paramagatihi. Ishasya parama sampada. Eshosya paramo lokaha. Eshosya parama anandaha. Still talking about deep sleep state. But deep sleep state means moksha. Deep sleep state means one's own swarupa. The example is deep sleep of non-duality. So, we have an experience of non-duality, and so non-duality, and we have experience of our own swarupa in the deep sleep. Therefore, that alone is further described. As I said, this is what we have to do deliberately. So, what happens in deep sleep is something that we have to create deliberately. Eshosya, so parama, eshasya parama gatihi. Asya, of this self, vijnanamasya, the self identified with vijnanam, identified as buddhi, the jivatma, parama gatihi, it is the, gatihi means what? The ultimate goal. Gati is the ultimate place you have to reach. That Brahman is the ultimate place you have to reach. Then are in the Shastra, other lokas are there, Swargaloka, Bhuhu, Bhuva, Suha, Maha, Jana, Tapaha, Satyaloka, Brahmaloka. But even then, even Brahmaloka also is not Paramagati. Becoming Brahman is Paramagati. Recognizing myself as Brahman. Because in Brahmaloka or in an exalted realm, however exalted experience of Ananda you have, still there is a duality, a slight duality of the experiencer and experienced. What is Brahmaloka? Even that duality is not there. That I am Brahman. So Brahmaloka is the knowledge that I am Brahman, and Brahman means the Ananda, Brahman means the limitless, that I am limitless, I am Ananda, that is Paramagati. And so that is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to discover that I am Brahman. Ishasya Parama Sampata. Sampat means that is the wealth. This is the great or most exalted Sampat, most exalted wealth. Why is it most exalted? Akritakat, because it is not attained by an effort. This is one thing, this happiness of the self is one thing that we attain without effort. Because it is our nature. Therefore, it is attainment of what is already attained. It's just a recognition. Here the attainment is by recognition. Like the 10th man recognizes that I am 10th man, that knowledge alone is attainment. When what I have to attain is different from me, then an effort is required. When what I have to attain is myself, but Swamiji, what do you mean you attain yourself? You already are, but I don't know. So this is the problem, human problem. The basic problem is that I do not know what I really am. And therefore, from the birth, I take myself to be contrary to what I am. Even though I am limitless by nature, by habit I take myself to be a limited being. Even Ananda is my nature, the happiness is my nature. By habit, I take myself to be an unhappy being. I take myself a limited being, an unhappy being, a wanting, lacking being. This is all from birth. I have to make no effort. Puja Swami says, one thing for which we have to make no effort is ignorance. But that is given. You are born ignorant. But ignorance is all these false notions. Ignorance has two aspects, avaranam and vikshepa. Avaranam means not knowing the true nature. Vikshepa means knowing it contrary. One, I do not know the true nature of myself, that is Brahman, and I take myself contrary, that not only I do not know I am limitless, I take myself to be limited. Therefore it is said, hey, you are Brahman, and therefore Esha Evans recognize that Eshosya Param Ananda. This is Ananda of the Swarubhut Ananda. Ananda is my nature. To recognize that I am Ananda, it is effortless Ananda. What was preventing me from experiencing the Ananda was a veil of ignorance and false notions. When that veil of false notions or ignorance goes away, the Ananda, which is our nature, just becomes manifest. Like when the cloud goes away, the sun becomes manifest. It's always been shining. So also the happiness, which is limitless, is always shining. But covered by this cloud of ignorance and false notions, when that is removed by knowledge, then what is becomes evident. Therefore, the Brahmananda or limitless Ananda becomes evident. I haven't achieved it. Whatever is achieved is always limited. So this is not achieved. Only recognizing what is, so that is owning up what is. So far the problem was, I did not own up myself. Now I recognize that I am what I was searching for, so there is true owning up myself. Eshosya paramalokaha moksharupolokaha. Eshosya param anandaha. Sadhana asadhyaha. Meaning this ananda is not achieved by an effort. It is just Sarubhuta Ananda, and therefore it is the attainment of what is already attained. I think in Vedanta classes you must have heard this phrase, attainment of what is already attained. So, you are already attained, to recognize that is the attainment of what is already attained. Etasya anyani bhutani matram upajivante. This is Ananda. Wherever there is any experience of Ananda by anybody, is only a little fraction of this Ananda. Ananda, that is my nature, which is limitless, is the source of all the Ananda. It is the nature of mine, and because self is one and self is Ananda, therefore, just as I am Ananda Swarupa, so you are, so everybody is, everything is. Therefore, whenever any happiness is experienced by anybody, the source is this Ananda. Just as the source of all the water is ocean, even the water which is the well ultimately comes from ocean through rain and then goes to the well and, through all the rivers, etc., etc. So wherever there is any water, the source is ocean. Similarly, wherever there is any Ananda, the source is myself, source is Brahman. So this now the conclusion of this discourse, how this Ananda of the self is Param Ananda, is limitless Ananda. So here in the next passage, Ananda Mimamsa is given. The Mimamsa, the arithmetic of Ananda is given. So I think multiplication is part of arithmetic, isn't it? Yeah. So the arithmetic of Ananda is given, a long passage. So let us read that. Sayo manushyanam radha samruddho bhavati anyesham adhipatihi sarvaihi manushyakaihi bhogaihi sampannatamaha saha manushyanam param anandaha. What is the highest ananda or happiness that a human being can experience? Sayo manushyanam radha samruddha. See the translation? Who is perfect in the body. Same Mimamsa also is given similar in the Taittiriya Upanishad. But the source is here in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There it is given a little more detail. But so Manushyanam Radha, one is perfect of the body. Samruddha, most prosperous. Manushyanam Samruddha, most prosperous among the human beings. Manushyanam Adhipatihi, he is the ruler of all others. And further, Sarvaihi Manushikahi Bhogai Sampannatamaha, most lavishly supplied with all the human pleasures. Imagine yourself, imagine a human being who is perfect in the body, meaning that he has all the capability of enjoying the objects of pleasure. Even if objects of pleasure are given to me, I may not have the perfect capability. Swami, this sweet comes from Haridwar, it's something very special. Sorry, diabetes. Swamiji, this, what is it? What do you call it? Bhajia or whatever, I taste too much salt. No sugar, that is my diet. And therefore, even though everything comes before me, I don't have the ability to enjoy things. It's not enough that you have all the resources and you have all objects of enjoyment. You must have the capacity to enjoy. So here is a person who not only has all the means, source of enjoyment, all the resource of enjoyment, he also has the capability of enjoyment. He's young and strong and educated, etc., etc. and lavishly supplied with all the objects of pleasure. So what would be the ananda that a human being would enjoy? That's the most we can think of. That that would be the the climax of the ananda that I can enjoy. That I have all the capabilities and I have all the objects of pleasure before me, and so that's the climax of a human ananda. Saha manushyanam param ananda. This is the highest ananda of human beings. Where a human being is young, strong, educated, understanding, is a connoisseur. Because otherwise, even if the things are there, you don't know. You place all these wonderful dishes before a buffalo. What does it matter? It doesn't do anything. Place a beautiful rose before a cow. It will just eat away. It doesn't have that evolved sense or sensitivity to enjoy things. So in order to enjoy also, you require that sensitivity. Not that everyone also has that, but here is a person who has all that sensitivity to enjoy everything, the capability to enjoy everything, and resources in terms of what is enjoyable. Ideal condition. Call it 1 unit of human joy, which is ideal for us, just there is 1 unit. Athaye shatam manushyanam anandaha sa ekah pitrunam jitalokanam anandaha. So multiply that human happiness by 100. Happiness also is most ideal condition, which would not ever occur, but in case it occurs, that highest human happiness, multiply that by 100. Athaye shatam manushyanam anandaha sekah pitrunam jitalokanam anandaha. There is 1 unit of ananda of the pitrus. Pitrus means. So this is the world of mortals, the world of mains, and world of gods. So this is bhuhu, bhuvaha, suvaha. We're talking about the bhuvaha, the pitrunam ananda, the world of mains. So their ananda is 100 times the ananda of the human beings. Athaye shatam pitrunam jitalokanam anandaha sekah gandharvaloka anandaha. So multiply that ananda of the pitrus by 100 and you have 1 unit of the ananda of the Gandharva. So these are all different, what shall I say, the divine species, So as you go higher to heaven, so we have Pitrus and we have Gandharvas, and then we have Karma Deva and Devas, etc. So in the order of their evolution, you get birth in a given embodiment as a result of your punya karma. So how much punya karma you have acquired, that will decide where you are born. So all these ananda that these entities enjoy are only result of the punya karma that they have enjoyed. But even in these based ananda that they enjoy, remember that there is duality of the enjoyer and the enjoyed. As the measure of ananda grows, the duality does become subtler and subtler. But still, even in the Ananda of the Brahma or Brahma, still a slight duality remains in Brahmaloka also between the enjoyer and enjoyed. Athe shatam gandharvaloka anandaha sa ekah karma devanam anandaha ye karmana devatvam abhisampadhyante. Multiply the ananda of Gandharva and you have 1 unit of the karma deva. The devata also is qualified by karma. What is that? So why are they called karma deva? Ye karmana devatvam abhisampadhyate. Those who are formerly human beings, they perform lots of Vedic rituals, that is called karma, as a result of which they acquired that state of being deva, so they are called karma deva. They were not born as deva. They were born as human beings, and by performing rituals, they became devatas. Athe shatam karma devanam anandaha saikah ajana devanam anandaha yasya shrotriyah avrujinah akamahataha. Athe sadam karma devanam anandaha. So 100 units of the karma deva. The devatas who acquired that state by the rituals of karma, the 100 units of the ananda that karma devas enjoy is the 1 unit of devatas who are born as devatas. So those fellows became devata through performance of karma rituals. The other devatas who are born devatas are superior, and so they enjoy 100 units of ananda of karma deva. At this point, Upanishad also introduces yascha shrotriyah avrujinah akamahatah. That ananda which is enjoyed by the devatas or born devatas, that ananda also is enjoyed by a wise person. Although it doesn't say wise, shrotriya means well versed in the Vedas. Avrujinah sinless, akamata free from desire. Only a wise person can be so, but then shrotriya avrujinah akamata. A wise person, shrotriya, who is well versed in Vedas, because he gained his knowledge from his teacher through Shravanam, etc., he is sinless and he is free from all desires because he revels in the ananda that is his nature. Swarupa Bhut Ananda is nature, and therefore there is no occasion for him to desire. It is aptakama. His desires are all fulfilled because he has discovered the self to be Brahman, the limitless, and that discovery recognizes that I am limitless Ananda, and therefore all the desires are already fulfilled. So therefore he is called aptakama, one whose kamas or desires are already acquired, fulfilled. Shrotriyah avrujinah akamahatah. Shrotriyah, one well versed in the Vedas. Avrujinah, who is sinless. Akamahata, free from all desires. Then further, athaye shatam ajana devanam anandaha sa ekah prajapati loka anandaha yascha shrotriyah avrujinah akamahataha. Again, the 100 units of the devatas who are born as devatas, that is the 1 unit of the ananda experienced in loka prajapati, the world of prajapati. Prajapati is the totality of the subtle gross bodies. So now let's say Prajapati is a Devata. So 1 unit of the Ananda enjoyed by Prajapati. So 100 units of Ananda by these Devatas is 1 unit of Prajapati. Again, Shrotriya, Avrujina, Akamahata, that Ananda of Prajapati is also available or enjoyed by the wise person who is Shrotriya, well versed in Vedas. Avrujina, who is sinless. Akamahata, one who is not attacked by kama, means who is free from all desires. Athaye shatam prajapatiloka anandaha sa ekaha brahmaloka anandaha yascha shrotriyah avrijanaha akamahataha. Now 100 units of Prajapati is 1 unit of Brahma. So Brahma Loka is Brahma. So this is the gradation of Devatas. So in our scriptures, this is how the Devatas are graded. And we don't find it Indra, etc. But in Taittiriya Upanishad, we have a little more details. But our Puja Swamiji, while teaching Taittiriya Upanishad, this section really excited, describing Shrotriyasya Kamhatasya. That same Ananda is enjoyed by this man sitting under a tree. That is added by him. Doesn't say here. But since he has no desire, means he has no need. And Shrotriya means he is wise and free from needs. And so Sura Mandira Tarumula Nivasaha Shaya Bhutalam Ajanam Vasaha Sara Parigraha Bhogatyagaha Kasya Sukham Na Karoti Viragaha. Adi Shankaracharya says in his stotra called Bhaja Govindam. This wise person, Sura Mandira Taru Mula Nivasaha. What is the residence? His residence is under a tree, in a temple. What is his bed? Shaya Bhutalam. The earth is his bed. Ajanam Vasaha. What garments does he wear? Well, the garment of the skin of an animal, like a deer. A deer skin is how he just wraps himself. Ajanam Vasaha Sarva Parigraha Bhogatyaga. He does not have any means of pleasure or enjoyment. No, still he is happy. Kasya Sukham Na Karoti Viragaha. That's the description of Vairagya, or total dispassion, that what is it, what Ananda it is that dispassion does not bring, or a dispassionate person is automatically of the nature of Ananda, reveling in Ananda. You cannot be dispassionate just by thinking. Although they say, recognize this is all mithya and therefore you become free from desire. Nobody becomes free between you and me. You do not become free from desire simply by analysis. Jagattam is mithya and that does not work. Meaning that you cannot discover vairagya or dispassion simply by this intellectual exercise. What do you need? You need to discover that same Ananda in yourself. Only when the heart is full, as if this person is, then only there is real dispassion. Because the mind wants Ananda. If you do not want the mind to enjoy Ananda of the objects, you provide an alternate source, which is self. And that comes by self-purification. Although there is Ananda, it is not manifest, not evident, and becomes evident when we deliberately live a life which is conducive for self-purification. A life of a contributor. life of worship of Ishvara. Offer all the karmas to Ishvara, karma yoga, and values. So this is when we progressively acquire or attain the purification of heart, purification of mind, meaning that the ragadvesha, the impurities of attachment and aversion slowly leave. And thus we discover a greater and greater contentment or satisfaction from our own self. So karma yoga is not just performing karma, it's discovering that contentment at every stage in our life. So when is vairagya or dispassion possible? When what the objects are giving me is what I have discovered from myself. And how do we discover? By a process of emotional maturity or self-growth. What is self-growth? Growing in the purity of the self. Meaning that discovering freedom from impurities of ragadveshas. So Shrotriya, Avrujinaha, Akamahada. He has no desire because he has discovered the total ananda is his own self. He is sinless because sin means you have to violate the dharma, violate the order when there are some impulses within us. It is impulse of anger or lust or greed that compel us to violate the order. That's called papa or sin. But this person has no need to violate because without violating anything, he already has what he needs. He is free from violating any order, therefore no sin. Avrujinaha. His heart is full, therefore no kamna or akamahataha. Shrotriyasya, then in Taittiriya Upanishad, Shrotriyasya cha kamahatasya. And so Swami would have one sitting under a tree. Because that means he doesn't have anything and he doesn't have any desire also. You can't be sitting under a tree. I mean, for a short while you can, but that cannot be your residence. Sura mandiratar mula nivasa shayya bhutalam ajanam vasa. All this is when there is fullness within yourself. And that is our nature. And to discover that is our purushartha. Our purushartha means the self-effort is to discover that fullness which is our essential nature, progressively discovered by a life of values, by a life of right attitudes, by a life of service or being a contributor, and then ultimately by knowledge. अथ एषः एव परम आनन्दः एषः ब्रह्मलोकसम्राट् इति होवाच याज्ञवल्क्यः. Emperor, this is the Paramananda. Between you and the Atma, no obstacle remains. You are abiding in your own self. So what obstacle is basically identified as kama. Kama or desire represents all the obstacles. Because when the mind has desire, it is extrovert, in which there is a denial of one's own self. When the mind desires some pleasurable object outside, it cannot be unless it disowns itself. And therefore, when in discovery of one's fullness, the disowning stops, then you abide in yourself. Atha esha paramananda esha brahmaloka samrat. This is paramananda, the limitless ananda, and this is brahmaloka, hey samrat, hey emperor. We hear about brahmaloka, bhuhu, bhuva, swa, etc. But that brahmaloka is right here. Yes? Since the scriptures say, therefore, we imagine that there are different realms of progressively, increasing Ananda. But the ultimate loka where Ananda becomes the highest is your own self. And therefore, he Samrat, this is Brahmaloka. Then says, Soham Bhagavate Sahasram Dadami Ata Urdhvam Vimoksha Eva Bruhi. King Janaka says that I, to whom you have given this instruction, I offer you 1,000 cows. Please continue our discourse for moksha. This Esha Paramananda, now what remains? So Janaka thinks that something still remains. Meaning that King Janaka means that even this knowledge also is not adequate for moksha. Ata urdhvam, further, please tell me about moksha. Vimokshaya. So, Janaka recognizes there is something more to be learned still. And now Yajnavalkya is really scared, it says. Atraha Yajnavalkya Vibhayanchakara Medhavi Raja Sarvebhyah Ma Antebhyah Udarautsīt iti. Now King Sage Yajnavalkya is really worried that in the guise of asking one question, and his question does not get, concluded, Atta urdhvam vimokshaya, because you have promised me to give me knowledge for moksha. And the knowledge that you imparted so far, in my opinion, is not adequate for moksha. Even the knowledge that you are Parama Ananda, well, that is also, in the opinion of King Janaka, not adequate for moksha. And therefore, whatever is still left, please tell me. So, punah avrodhan krutavan. Thus, this Janaka, King Janaka, again and again, he had Yajnavalkya in his, what shall I say, Yajnavalkya under his control. Because Yajnavalkya promised him one question. And as a part of that question now is Vimoksha eva bruhi. Please tell me about moksha. And what you have told is still not adequate for moksha. Something more remains to be done. And therefore Yajnavalkya says, in the guise of one question, this person is going to extract all my knowledge, So this is where the text ends here. What follows is something different. Okay, there is one more passage there, looks like, yeah. On the page 15, first line. Now the Upanishad describes samsara. And we are not much, we're not going to spend any time with discussion of samsara, because the moksha has, even though King Janaka keeps on repeating Ata urdhvam vimokshaya, he has been given the knowledge of required for moksha. But we'll read that last passage, which is in the page 17, the first line. Page 15. 15. No. I'm reading the passage number 24, or 34, sorry, on the page 15. Sava eshaha etasmin swapnante ritva charitva dristvaiva punyam cha papam cha पुनः प्रतिन्यायम प्रतियोनि आद्रवति बुद्धांताय एव. So he gaining experiences of various objects in dream, then comes back to the waking state in an inverse manner. So passage through which he went from waking to dream, by the reverse or inverse way, he returns from the dream to the waking. So this is where the Upanishad, then something continues that is about the next birth and so forth and so on. So now Upanishad describes the death and so and so. But what was our great concern was this Upadesha, and that we have concluded Vimokshaya Bruhi, the Upanishad, the Upadesha for moksha has been thus concluded by us here. And thus we will conclude our retreat also with this passage. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.